Have you ever wondered why people hate? Could it possibly be a twisted form of adoration? It's a puzzling thought, isn't it? But let's take a moment to unravel this conundrum. We're about to embark on an exploration of the human emotional landscape, where things aren't always as black and white as they seem. You see, emotions are complex, and their dynamics can often surprise us. Hatred, a sentiment we usually associate with negativity, could in fact be a distorted manifestation of adoration. It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? The idea that there might be a fine line between love and hate, that the intensity of our negative feelings might be a reflection of a misplaced positive emotion. But before we jump to conclusions, let's take a closer look. Stay with us as we delve into the intriguing world of emotions and explore the paradoxical relationship between hatred and adoration. Hatred, as intense as it is, may just be a twisted version of adoration. Think about it. We often reserve our most profound emotions for the people or things we care about deeply. And when that care takes a twisted turn, those intense feelings can morph into something darker, something like hatred. To illustrate this, let's consider a common scenario. Imagine two best friends who share everything, secrets, experiences, dreams. Their bond is deep, their affection for each other immense. But one day, a severe disagreement leads to a fallout. The love they once shared doesn't just disappear, instead it transforms into a negative emotion. The caring turns into resentment, the fondness into bitterness, and the adoration into a deep-seated hatred. This transformation is not a rarity, it's a perplexing part of human nature, the ability to turn love into hate, adoration into aversion. But why does this happen? Psychologists suggest that it's because positive and negative emotions are two sides of the same coin. They are not separate entities, but interconnected facets of the human emotional spectrum. When we feel deeply about someone or something, it's easier for those feelings to flip from one end of the spectrum to the other, turning adoration into hatred. Think about a passionate hobby you once had that you now can't stand. Perhaps you loved painting, but a harsh critique made you despise it. Or maybe you adored playing the piano, but after years of rigorous practice and high expectations, you began to detest it. The intense feelings of love you once had for these activities didn't vanish, they merely changed form. It's essential to understand that hatred is not the absence of love, but rather a distorted version of it. When we hate someone or something, it's not because we feel nothing for them, but because we once felt something strong, something positive, and that feeling has somehow turned sour. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but our capacity for love and adoration is what makes us equally capable of hatred. This understanding gives us a unique perspective on how we deal with our emotions. It shows us that it's not the people or things we feel indifferent towards that we hate, but those we care about. It's a twisted irony, but it's a part of the human emotional landscape. So what does all this mean for us? Can we avoid hatred by simply not caring? It's a tempting proposition, but is it really that simple, or is there more to this complex emotional equation? So, can we avoid hatred by simply not caring? Let's delve into that in the next segment. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the intricate dynamics of hatred, a twisted form of adoration. If we don't care, can we still hate? This question may seem simple on the surface, but it's actually packed with layers of psychological complexity. Let's delve into the fascinating world of emotions and how they shape our feelings towards others. Specifically, let's discuss the concept of non-caring, a state of emotional neutrality or indifference. When we don't care about someone or something, it's like we're putting up an invisible barrier. This barrier acts as a protective shield, preventing the development of strong negative emotions such as hatred. You see, hatred isn't a spontaneous emotion. It doesn't simply appear out of nowhere. Rather, it's a twisted form of adoration that has been distorted and tarnished by disappointment, betrayal, or hurt. But what if there's no adoration to begin with? What if there's only indifference? Imagine a stranger on the street. You don't know them, and they don't know you. There's no emotional investment between the two of you. Can you hate this person? It's highly unlikely. You may feel annoyance or irritation if they act rudely, but these feelings are fleeting. They don't have the intensity or duration of hatred. This is because hatred requires energy. It requires us to care enough about someone or something to feel deeply hurt or disappointed by them. Non-caring, on the other hand, is like an emotional off switch. When we don't care, we don't invest our emotional energy. There's nothing to fuel the fire of hatred. So non-caring can act as a preventative measure against hatred. It's not about being cold or unfeeling. Rather, it's about understanding where and how we choose to invest our emotional energy. It's about realizing that we have the power to control our emotions and that we can choose not to care, not to hate. But what happens when we do care, when we are emotionally invested? This takes us to our next segment, where we'll explore the deep connections between emotional investment and the intensity of negative emotions. When we care deeply, we open ourselves up to a spectrum of emotions, including hatred. This statement might sound paradoxical at first, but let's delve into it a bit more. When we think of hatred, we often picture it as the polar opposite of love. But if we examine it closely, we find that both emotions share a common thread: emotional investment. This concept may seem a bit abstract, so let's use a real-life example. Picture two friends sharing a bond that spans several years. They've been through thick and thin, shared laughter and tears, and have a history that's rich with shared experiences. But one day, a disagreement arises. It starts small, but escalates quickly, leading to a heated argument and eventually a falling out. Suddenly, all the love and camaraderie that once existed is replaced by intense feelings of resentment and anger, a twisted form of adoration. What led to this transformation? It was the emotional investment, the depth of their past relationship that fueled these intense emotions. Because they cared so deeply for each other, the disagreement hit closer to the heart, and the resulting negative emotions were equally intense. Now imagine a similar disagreement with a stranger. The reaction would likely be much less intense, right? This is because there isn't any emotional investment. The emotional connection isn't there, and hence the negative emotions are less likely to take root and grow into something more. The intensity of negative emotions is directly proportional to the depth of our emotional investment. The more we care about someone, the more emotionally invested we are, the stronger our reactions, both positive and negative, will be. This is not to say that emotional investment is a bad thing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Emotional investment is what makes our relationships meaningful. It's what makes us human. But it's also what makes us vulnerable to a spectrum of emotions, including hatred. So the next time you find yourself experiencing intense negative emotions towards someone you care about, remember this. It's not because you hate them, it's because you care. It's a twisted form of adoration, a testament to the depth of your emotional investment. Understanding this connection can help us navigate our emotions better. It can help us recognize when our feelings of hatred are simply a reflection of our deep emotional investment, and perhaps guide us towards resolving conflicts in a more compassionate way. The more we care, the more we are susceptible to both love and hate. Your own experiences with hatred can provide valuable insights into the complex dynamics of emotions. We've all had our moments of intense dislike, perhaps even hatred towards someone or something. And within these moments, we can often find a distorted mirror of adoration. This might sound strange, even contradictory, but let's delve deeper. Think back to a time when you felt a profound sense of hatred. It could be towards a person, an idea, or a situation. Now consider the emotional investment you had in that instance. Were you indifferent or were you deeply involved? More often than not, you'll find that your hatred was rooted in a significant emotional investment. Perhaps it was a loved one who betrayed your trust or a friend who let you down. These instances sting the most because we care deeply about these people. We adored them, and when they failed us, our adoration twisted into hatred. Now, consider the opposite scenario. Can you recall hating something or someone you were indifferent about? Most likely it's harder to remember such instances because they're far less common. It's difficult to hate when we don't care. When we don't have that emotional investment, we invite you to share your reflections and experiences in the comments section. Let's cultivate a dialogue about these complex emotional dynamics. As we've explored today, hatred may be a twisted form of adoration, shaped by our emotional investments and our willingness to care.